There are a number of reasons why you would choose to simply use script to build your commandlets. The biggest one is that it's easy. It's easy because you don't need access to any tools, and it's easy because there's no compilation required, and so you can simply test, change, and test again without having to load and unload stuff. Commandlets in script, or commandlets built with script, are simply advanced functions with a set of additional attributes on them. And so you can read about these and this capability in depth using Get Help by reading about advanced functions. And just like C#, PowerShell script can be decorated with attributes around the function and its parameters to tell it that this is in fact a commandlet. And so there's a commandlet binding attribute and a parameter attribute. And these are the two most simple ones, but there are a lot more that you can apply. And we're not going to dig really super deep into this. We're just going to stick with the basics of commandlet binding and parameter. All right, so what we're going to do now is jump over to PowerShell and actually build a very simple commandlet, which is going to say hello to somebody. And we're going to do that using script. Alright, so I'm going to open up the scripting pane here in PowerShell ICE, and I'm going to start by creating a new function. Now, if I'm building a commandlet, the scope of that is going to be global. I want it to be visible throughout my session, and so I'm going to decorate it specifically with the global attribute. This is probably the only time that I can think of that I commonly use global to qualify my advanced functions. And the name of this function is going to be show hello. Alright, now show hello ultimately is going to take a name attribute so that it knows who to say hello to. And so if I were writing a normal function, I would just say something like name in the argument list. But I'm going to need to decorate my parameters to say, so that PowerShell can treat them as commandlet parameters. And because of that, instead of using the argument list, I'm going to use the optional param block. Now param needs to come right after the function declaration. I'll move my cursor off so that you can see this. And the param we're going to have is going to be, hang on a second, the param we're going to have is going to be a string. So I'm going to fully qualify this as well. And it's going to be called name. All right, and then I need a process block. And inside the process block, we're just going to say write to the output. Hello, name. All right, so I'm going to save this, and we'll call this sample commandlet as well. And if I run my script, I don't get any output because what it did was it loaded up this function. And so if I type show hello, I can see that I have two in here at this point. One of these is in here because I previously built a module using C# that had an equivalent command in it. But the one I want is the first one that gets listed, and I know that it's the one that I want to have listed because it's telling me that name is optional. So I could say in this case that I want to show hello Doug, and it says hello Doug. Now, even though this is a perfectly good and beautiful global function, at the moment it is not quite a command, or rather a commandlet. So I need to add an attribute to show hello to say that it's a commandlet. And unlike C# where the attribute goes before the class, in the case of the script, the attribute goes right after the function and before the param. So I'm going to come back up here to the scripting pane, and we'll just say that we have a commandlet binding. And PowerShell recognizes that. It highlights just like it ought to, based on my theme that I created. And then for the param, which we have here for name, I need to decorate it with another attribute that says that it's a parameter for the commandlet. Now you saw a second ago that the IntelliSense in PowerShell ICE picked up on the fact that I had a name parameter and everything worked. But what is happening with this attribute is that it lets me specify all of the things that I could specify in C#. And in this case, what I'm going to specify is that the parameter is mandatory. So I'm going to say mandatory is equal to true. All right, so let's run this. And now, if I do show hello, once again picking the first one, the IntelliSense says now common parameters are available as well, because commandlets have a big set of common parameters that we can use to apply. And so I know that now PowerShell recognizes that this is in fact a commandlet. And if I try to run it, I get a prompt telling me to specify a value for the name. And it says, hello, Doug. Now, because this is a PowerShell script, all of the comment-based help rules apply to it, just like they would any other PowerShell script or function. There's nothing special about a commandlet in this regard. And so I could create a set of help that did the summary and a detailed description and help for each one of the parameters and examples and all of the great stuff that the PowerShell help system provides, if I so desired. Now, if I'm going to go to the trouble of creating a whole bunch of custom commandlets, I need some way to package those together as a coherent set of functionality. And so this is where a module comes into play. And a module can package commandlets and providers and functions and workflows and variables and aliases. Modules are a lot more powerful than the thing they deprecated, which is snap-ins, because it can provide a wrapper for a lot more functionality than what a snap-in can provide. But just like a snap-in, we can create modules with .NET, but we can also easily create them with script. A script module is a PowerShell file with the extension PSM1. So it contains a script just like any other file. We can also have a secondary file for our module, which is optional, and that file contains metadata about the module, so the author, the version number, etc. and so forth. And we can create one of these files by using the new module manifest command. Now, the difference between a module and a profile may seem fairly subtle, but a profile is, kind of a bucket that is used to prime a session for a user and or host. But a module is used to deliver and package a whole bunch of functionality. And so when we have modules, we can pass those around to other people as a unit, as opposed to just something that we want to fire up to initialize a session. But usually if we're creating a big important module for ourselves, we're going to put an important module in our profile to load that module up when we actually begin our session. And since a module is similar to a profile, it should come as no surprise to you that just like profiles, all we have to do to create a module that PowerShell can see is put it in a known location and we're ready to go. All right, so let's jump back over to PowerShell and create a new simple module which is going to hold our show hello commandlet. Okay, so what I want to do is take this script right here, which is a commandlet called show hello, and put it into a new module. Now there are a couple of directories that I could put modules inside of, but I'm going to create a module just for my current user. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the new item command, and I'm going to use it to create a directory. So the type of thing that I'm creating is a directory, and the path for this is going to be starting in home, right? So this is going to be my documents. So C users, administrator SP 2013, documents, and this is where we start needing to make some new stuff. And so we're going to create this at Windows, PowerShell, and modules. Right? And so once I execute this, we can see that there is a new module, and I know that this is a directory because the D attribute is set. All right, so now let's take that same command that we just ran a second ago, and instead of making a directory, we're going to make a file. And that file is going to be at that path, and it's going to be called demo module. And for it to be a module, we need to use the PSM1 extension. All right. And I can tell that this is a file because it doesn't have D set, and it does have the archive attribute set. And now finally, I'm going to edit this file. So instead of using new item, I'm going to say ps edit. And it opens up demo module PSM1 inside of the script editor. So what I'm going to do is just take this and copy it over into this file and save it. And now what I'm going to do is close it. All right, I closed PowerShell Ice so that it doesn't have any junk in it from any of the stuff I've done previously. And so I'm going to open it back up, and I'm going to use the import module command. And import module, I need to say this is going to be at C users administrator SP 2013 documents Windows PowerShell modules, and the file we're loading is demomodule.psm1. And it just silently runs. I didn't get an error. Now if I start typing show, I can see that I have something called show hello loaded, so that looks good. And I can also use the get module command to see the modules that I have loaded up, and the first one that it lists here is demo module, which is a script module. So life is good. We can now say show hello, and PowerShell says hello to me. Now I could add anything I wanted to that PSM1 file. If I wanted to set up some aliases that were appropriate for the module, which would be the most common thing that I would do in addition to Cmdlets, or if I wanted some script that I needed to run when the module initialized, or really anything I felt like I can do inside of that PSM1 file. It's just a PowerShell script.